Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the afternoon. Joining me today, it's a full house. We have Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor, and Broad Street Hockey's own, in her last show, wearing an Ottawa Senators jersey on my set. It is Kelly Hinkle.
It is very funny that you picked the Senators specifically to troll Bill Matz, noted Senators hater.
It's maybe the only team in hockey I have nothing for whatsoever.
It's so funny to me that you still hate them so much.
Claude
I
Giroux
really
had,
respect it.
Claude Giroux had 31 teams to choose from. He chose wrong. Anyway.
Nearby Hearst.
Make sure you hit the like button. Do it. We're at 23 already. We're less than a minute in. You guys are doing a great job. We need to amp those numbers up. Speaking of things we need to amp up.
We had good numbers, I
Yeah.
would say, for our first 12 p.m. show.
Absolutely.
So thanks to everyone who is joining us live. We'd love to get more and more, but we know it's going to take some time for people to get used to it. And if you can't watch at 12, I know some people have work requirements. Watch whenever you can, but definitely want to make sure everybody knows we are now 12 versus 4.
The feedback in the chat yesterday was very positive about the 12 o'clock time slot. So good for you, boys.
It's good stuff. I have to get a little bit better used to the amount of time I have to plan the show, especially maybe utilizing the night before. Have you ever done something that you knew was wrong, but were like, I'm doing this and I think I'm going to get away with it?
Oh, never me. I would never do that.
Last night, so my aunt makes these awesome empanadas.
Okay.
Ooh.
And they take like a couple days to make. They're outstanding. I took a bunch. We had like an Easter brunch on Saturday before Easter, 2 weeks ago. I took a bunch home. Found them in my fridge last night. It's like, 2 weeks old. I bet you they're all right.
Ooh, William.
I cannot describe to you the discomfort I have been in since basically this show ended yesterday. I purposefully food poisoned there's no other way to say it. I purposefully food poisoned myself. The heartburn, here's energy drink number 2, probably not helping.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking other than like, you'll probably get away with this. And no.
A couple of things.
I'm like 12 pounds lighter.
I've known you a decade, and I've never had one of these empanadas, and I consider that a personal affront to me. But also, do not smell. I have like a firm, you smell it. If it smells fine, you're eating it and you're fine. On leftovers. Did you not give it a little?
I basically have no sense of smell.
Okay. Well,
I can't explain why.
Okay.
I am I can't explain why. It's
Did you ever get that checked out? Like even once?
I asked the ear, nose, and throat. They're like, that's weird.
I have a picture of Bill Matz in college that
Sure.
I don't know.
Like, I just figure I'm like Dewey Cox. Like it'll just come back one day.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but so we're gonna try to get through today's show based on.
So here's one thing I'll say, William, about this tendency of yours to do things that on some level you know are gonna blow up in your face, but you're just like, nah, you know what? I just want to do it.
I just really thought they were so good it would be okay.
I just feel like this is very appropriate given the team that you regularly cover.
I respect it so much.
Like, what do you think the internal justification was to trading away a first-round pick and then re-signing Rasmus Line? It was, this might blow up in our face, but we really want the big man who hits people. So let's just do it, and we'll deal with the consequences later. And now they have a guy who, granted, did get better, but now can't stay healthy an entire year and probably is untradeable.
Yeah.
It's basically you right now trying to survive this hour-long show with a stomach that feels like it's going to explode.
It was
Just saying.
Charlie, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah. And so I will, in fact, blame Chuck Fletcher for this, as I have many of the problems in my life.
Very fair.
We will be blaming Chuck Fletcher. Yeah, I wanted it, and I decided that it was worth the risk. Doesn't matter what price we have to pay. And here we are with a half-finished outline. No, we have a good show planned for you today, quite honestly.
We're actually going to talk about someone who I have been waiting for us to talk about for a while because he's probably my the way you talk about Zhamnov and Fedorov as like your wild card coaching candidates, this is the one guy who people don't talk about who I am particularly intrigued by. We'll get to him in a little bit, but I'm happy that we're finally getting to talk about him because he's always been that guy where when I've seen him at the bottom of lists, I'm like, he'd probably be in that first tier for me, even if I know there's a very low chance he ultimately becomes the pick.
All right. Before we get there, we got to talk about the draft lottery. First and foremost, we have a date. We have more than one person who has tweeted about it now. Frank Saravalli and Daily Faceoff have let us know that it will actually be Monday, May 5th, 5/5. Cinco de Mayo.
Ooh, Cinco de Mayo.
Tacos.
Oh, we can get empanadas.
Yes. Fresh.
William, you never learn from your mistakes, do you? You're just like the Flyers. You never learn from your mistakes.
And we will be taking the slow big guy with the 5th overall pick. Monday, 5/5 will be the draft lottery, which means the draft lottery party will be right here at the PHLY studios for all of our diehards. And thank you to everyone who took advantage of the big diehard sale that ended about 12 hours ago. We got all sorts of new signups. And guess what? We won the internal all-city competition. Philly won this time.
We did.
I have a sneaking suspicion we won last time, but we're screwed by things out of our control. Most notably a QR code that sent people to PHNX instead of...
Wait, really? That happened?
I got a couple DMs from people who accidentally signed up for PHNX.
Interesting.
But this time it was functioning and we won. And so we have all sorts of diehards looking to take advantage of their diehard benefits. One of them is coming to this draft lottery party. So get your tickets at the events page on allphly.com. It's going to be Monday, May 5th. Going to be food, refreshments, all sorts of good times. Hang with friends, pop a shot, and the reaction to when this team wins the lottery. It is going to happen. Sign up, go, come. I hear the Sixers have sold more tickets than us, and I don't like that.
Can't stand.
So you got to step it up here, fam. I know we ask a lot of you, but come on.
You can either be really happy in a collective group of legitimately diehard Flyers fans, or we go back to that classic tweet about the purpose of sports is to be sad in a group.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you beat me at Papa Shot, you get a sticker.
Oh, look at that.
You will not beat me.
Ooh, that is a challenge.
Kelly is the queen of carnival games.
But you have to play like a normal person. You can't do underhands like the Sixers guys do. It's cheating.
Okay.
But along with the announcement that there will, in fact, be a draft lottery this year, and it's crazy that they announce when it is a week out. Less than a week.
Insane.
Like today is Tuesday. It is Monday. I'm baffled by this. But anyway.
It's just a reminder of how the NHL, best sport, worst league.
It affects half the teams in the league. And they didn't announce it until today. Anyway, we have our simulator. That's right. The Tankathon spin to get to today. Of course, this will be happening for real Monday, May 5th. Come to our party. But we do one of these every day that I remember to get to it. So without further ado, holding those fourth odds, let's see what happens to the Flyers today. Brenna, spin that wheel. Hey! We did it! On the day it was announced. The curse
Number
is
one,
lifted.
jumping to one.
It is no longer a Brenna problem.
Yay!
We can say officially that the Flyers have won one of these spins. And who jumped up to 2? Seattle. I like that.
Seattle did, okay.
San Jose and Chicago both fall as we get to that number 1 spot. And we believe it would be Schaefer if this were to happen.
Charlie says it's going to be Schaefer, right?
Yeah.
I would think it would be Schaefer. You never know, but I think it would be Schaefer. And if Schaefer's as good as he's supposed to be, and he does have a lot of very intriguing characteristics, the comparison you hear a lot when people talk about him is Miro Heiskanen, who is, in my opinion, one of probably the 5 best defensemen in the league. I think the consensus is probably he's in that 10 to 15 range. I'm higher on him than most.
I think
he's great, but at the very least, I think all can agree he is a clear-cut number 1 defenseman on a cup contender.
I would say he's in the... It's tough because there's a couple of guys where it's like, well, you're not going to put up more points than them. And you know how a lot of voters might sort by points.
And we just had this conversation yesterday about how I don't care that... But you can't have 6, but I don't care that much about points.
Yeah, you play 25 minutes a night, and you're the number 1 guy. You should have more than 6.
Right.
But he has had the big offensive seasons previously. It's just like, yeah, there's a couple guys in the league who, if they play every night, they're going to have close to 100 points.
Exactly.
And that's probably not Heiskanen.
Yeah.
But I would say he's, at this point now, considered in that top 5, maybe 8.
Yeah, 8-ish. I think I'm a bit higher on him than the consensus. And everyone is high on him. I just think even higher of him than most.
Okay.
So if Matthew Schaefer is the next Miro Heiskanen, I will take it in a heartbeat.
I always think about that alternate universe. That alternate universe where we just made all those stars picks. And now that they have Rantanen, we can even be like,
could have been
instead of Provorov. We could just be the Dallas Stars who are up 3-2 on Colorado.
Without arguably their 2 best players.
Without their 2 freaking best players. This series is kind of wild. Just Colorado, I thought the big boost was going to come when they got Landeskog back, and they got the emotional charge from that. But Dallas is still, I mean, it's 3-2. This could easily just go 7.
Sure could. Yeah.
That kind of seems like the path it's on right now. But
as a hockey fan, I'm rooting for it to go 7.
This is one of the 2 series that is, this could have been a conference final. Yeah, if these 2 teams were in opposite conference and they meet in the cup final, we're like, hell yeah. Shocked that Dallas not only is hung with Colorado, but has the lead?
I think my takeaway, and look, it could change. There's 2 more games. Maybe Colorado just beats them 6-1, in game 6, and then beats them 10-2 in game 7, and that changes the entire narrative. But from my perspective, I come away from this thinking, man, if Dallas was at full strength, like Dallas, might come away from this thinking like Dallas is just a lot better than Colorado. Because if this is Dallas without Heiskanen and Robertson, imagine what it would be if they had them.
And like Sagan playing his first hockey in 6 months, basically.
Yeah,
like,
he's still getting his feet back under him, to be
now,
sure.
Colorado, like, they made big additions at the deadline. This is Gabe Landeskog. Like, he's played 3 NHL games in 3 years. You can make some similar cases, but like McKinnon, Makar, these guys are there.
They're good.
And they're, as far as we know, like fully healthy. They're 2 of the best players in the league, and they're trailing in this series. That's kind of why when this came out, and it was like, yeah, probably not going to have Heiskanen. We'll see about Robertson. Then it's kind of flipped, but neither playing.
Yeah.
It's all right. This would have been nice, but first round. Now it's, we got that Colorado pick. Dallas, close this thing out. I am pretty excited about the way this thing is going, quite honestly, even though Colorado, typically my Western team.
Yeah.
Not this year.
We have an alternate.
I got other things.
I'm wondering if there's not a little bit of like the guys on Dallas know that if they are able to get those 2 guys back, like they're going to be practically unstoppable, and they know they just got to get over this hump in order to get there. And it's not like you take those 2 players away and Dallas is bad.
No, they're not bad.
Not as good as they normally are.
If they were playing against a team that wasn't Colorado without those guys, they probably still would be favored. It's just they're playing against one of the 2 or 3 other favorites to win the cup in round 1 without those guys. That's the problem, which is why it's even more impressive that they're, not running away with this thing. It's 3-2. It could flip, but they're ahead. They're ahead in the series.
Rule.
Yeah. And right now, Dallas is on pace to like set the record for team that has led the least in a series and won that series. They talked about it on 32 Thoughts yesterday. The record's they led 16 or 17 minutes.
They led pretty much all of game 5 because they scored within 9 seconds, 11 seconds.
Yes. It's just funny.
It was 9 seconds. This was 11 seconds in between the goals in the Florida-Tampa series.
Yeah.
And then it was 9 seconds in. That was one thing, too, about that game last night. The one advantage that Dallas very clearly still has over Colorado, despite the fact that Robertson and Heiskanen are out, is the goaltending.
Yeah.
And, oh, man, as a longtime Mackenzie Blackwood skeptic, I enjoyed that game immensely because, wow, he was bad.
I think it's time to give up our Mackenzie Blackwood hatred, quite honestly. But
I'll never give it up.
Like he is better than expected, I would say. But
he wasn't yesterday.
Better than expected when we had this conversation 3-4 years ago, whatever it was.
Fair. That goal, the goal he allowed at the end of the first period, that's a straight up like early 2010s EA Sports NHL goal. because that kind of goal happens where it's just the guy just like puck goes up and he just kind of backs it into the net himself. That was an NHL EA Sports glitch goal.
Yeah.
And somehow it happened in reality.
Florida is up 3-1 on Tampa.
Not surprising.
Outclassing them a little bit. I like just how mean that series has been.
I mean, I don't know if I would say they're outclassing them. I mean, Florida came through in a big way late in that game, but for large portions of that game, you thought Tampa was going to win, and it was like, oh, it's going to be 2-2. Now we got a great series. And then Florida just turned the afterburners on at the very end of the game and took it over. It wasn't like Florida destroyed Tampa.
I am a little, not destroyed, but I'm just a little surprised there hasn't been a little more back and forth in those big moments where Florida, I mean, it's not crazy. Florida's won the East 2 years in a row. They're the defending champs. I just thought it would be 2-2, not 3-1, quite honestly. Like, there'd just be a little more evenness in those, like, you know, road comes to a fork moments, and it seems like Florida's kind of taken over at those times. But again, 3-2. All right, well, now we're going to 6, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, one of the big things.
Any closeouts tonight do you expect? Because these games are the series.
The series.
Like, Ottawa-Toronto has been a lot closer than the overall like score of the series. Toronto's up 3-1, but there's been 3 overtime games. New Jersey, Carolina.
That's done.
That's probably over. Right?
I would pick Carolina to win this one. They're back in Carolina.
Yeah.
So they have the home ice advantage, which should help, you would think. Toronto, Ottawa. Look, Toronto's the better team, but it is still Toronto.
Yeah. You know it creeped in. You know the thought of that reverse jinx creeped in as soon as they lost that game 4. They were like, oh no. Like, it could happen.
They've choked away so many series. This generation in particular of Toronto players, this core has choked away so many series that you can't tell me it doesn't creep into their heads.
And you know who's come back from 3-0?
Claude Giroux. Sure did.
He knows how to do it, baby. Let's go.
I did see some allusions to that. As much as the Leafs are the Leafs,
they do be leafing.
They are like, this is the first round in which they have tremendous experience.
It'll be hilarious if they don't win this series. They're probably going to.
They are winning this series, and I would put money on it being tonight.
Cannot imagine they lose 4 straight games.
It'll be real funny if they do.
It would be, as much as I want to see the Leafs like move on, because I just want to see that team like in further rounds because they're more intriguing and better to me. Yeah. It would be undoubtedly hilarious if they were, even if this were to go like 6 or 7 games.
Yeah,
and they win, but don't put this away in the next couple of nights. It would be very, very funny.
No, this night very clearly is a night for the Night Owls because the early games are, you know, it would be funny if Toronto loses and then scares the hell out of the greater Toronto area. And I mean, I guess the Devils could win. You never know. But then you've got the late games. You got Minnesota, Vegas, which has turned into a war.
I can't believe.
And then you've got Edmonton, LA, which, I mean, we had some weird LA fan pop in our comment section being like, the Kings are going to run the league. Like, maybe worry about beating the Oilers once first before you start trash talking.
I am very much rooting for the Kings. Want to see this thing go for them. As much as like, I'd want to see Connor McDavid in the playoffs. It's, well, again, we have that ulterior motive. I want that pick to be as low as possible.
Also, McDavid to Philly requires them losing in the first round.
It would really help if they blow this series so that we can start thinking about that a little bit. And maybe, you know, you hire Rick Tocchet, you get. I'm just saying, if Quinn loves him so much, maybe we get all 3 Hughes brothers here. We get Connor McDavid, Matvei Michkov. Boom, we win every cup for 10 years. You know.
I like where your head's at with that, actually.
But no, that's another thing. Like looking at Dallas and seeing this path through the West, like Minnesota, Vegas going to war with each other. That bodes well for Dallas if they can close this thing out. Edmonton, LA. I can't imagine like fearing the Kings, especially if you have home ice. Like they are not a good road team. And as we're seeing, man, they have a tendency to give up some leads. Now, again, don't want to take away from, McDavid is doing that to them. He's the best player maybe ever. Yeah. But you're looking at these series kind of be these back and forth wars. If you're Dallas going, ooh, it's a real opportunity for us if we can just get by like what might be the best team on paper in the West. So I'm interested to see how tonight goes. Definitely the late games.
Yeah, those games are they're the prestige games on this night. You got the warm-up games in the East, and then you got the West games are the ones that, hopefully you drink some caffeine and stay up for those because they're going to be good.
They are going to be good. Before we move on and get to the Flyers portion of today's show, have to take a quick second to tell you about a couple of our sponsors. You know we love to do Empire here. That's right, 1-800-588-2300-EMPIRE.
Today.
All right. I've been telling you about Empire Today for weeks now, and the thing that I love the most about Empire, it's that they live and breathe flooring. That's right. And they will be with you every step of the way. It's a whole different ball game at Empire than it is at those big box stores that are just kind of trying to give you whatever they've been told to feature and then send you on your way. That's not the way it goes at Empire. Again, Empire lives and breathes flooring, and they're flooring experts. They can even bring the showroom right to your home so you can pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space. You can see how it looks in your space, right up against your furniture, against the colors in your home, all of that. And they'll give you the precise measurements and have all your questions answered so that there are no surprises. And with Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. Ask the Kings. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHLY. You heard that right. A $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details. While we're here, you got that flooring. Maybe you want some furniture to put on top of that flooring. Well, that's where our friends at Ashley come in because the low prices are blooming. So spring into savings at Ashley, where you can save up to 50% off living rooms, bedrooms, and dining rooms and have it all delivered for free, plus get long-term, no-interest financing. That's right. You can save on top brand mattresses and get free delivery, setup, and removal. What else can you possibly ask for? So spring into savings now at Ashley, South Jersey, and Philadelphia. Financing with approved credit. Minimum purchase required. Some exclusions may apply. See stores for complete details. Hurry to Ashley. Visit ashleyfurniture.com for more information.
All right. Before we get going, we're at 79 likes. Let's get to 100. Let's get to 100.
All right. Let us see how quickly you can get us to 100 likes on Charlie's countdown. Kelly.
Yep.
You weren't with us yesterday.
I was in spirit.
You were. You were in the chat, I noticed. Yeah. But Charlie and I discussed the idea of how the coaching search hasn't started yet.
Yep.
When you hear that, what does it make you think?
Well, I didn't like what you presented as the reason why they're not looking yet.
Yeah.
But I guess that could be one of them. It's interesting because it makes me think it's either one of two things. It's either your theory that they're going to wait on Tocchet's contract running out and then hire him, or they've already decided it's Shaw. Because waiting, like, you would imagine that some of these guys that are really good, like Sullivan or whatever, are going to get snatched up pretty quickly by some team. So, like, if they're willing to wait, that makes me think they're not urgently looking to hire one of these guys that just recently got fired. So that's kind of interesting. I'm hoping... At this point, I really just want it to be Bradshaw. I feel like Bradshaw, 2 years, get him to the next level, the next stage of this rebuild, and then you hire the win now coach, and then you go for it. And I kind of think that might be the best path forward. That said, it's probably Tocchet because it's the Flyers.
And we both believe, like, no matter what you think of Jim Montgomery, this is the NHL. He's going to be available.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So
we go for Jimbo in 2.
So here's what I will say. And again, this is something that I totally understand, especially I understand for us because we have a daily show, but I understand fans' perspective as well. Why fans are going stir crazy that, well, they haven't even interviewed people. They haven't hired the coach. What you do have to remember is that coaches usually don't get hired in April. A lot of them.
103.
I know.
Oh, you hit it?
In
Okay.
like a minute.
I hit it.
Okay.
It was a minute.
Okay.
Very, very well
Sorry,
done.
I know.
Well done. That was the quickest so far. I wanted to get my point in before.
I'm sorry.
Because the Flyers aren't playing,
Yeah.
because the draft is still almost 2 months away, we haven't even had the draft lottery yet. We have nothing else to talk about other than the coach. And then it becomes, well, why haven't they hired the coach? Why haven't they even interviewed people? Why aren't we getting reports that's linking them to all these separate guys? Why don't we have this information? And in reality, it is pretty standard for the head coaching hires for teams to not happen until mid to late May, to not happen until early June. So just keep that in mind, that this isn't weird. Okay. It's not weird that the Flyers haven't made their hire yet. It's not even super weird that they haven't begun their coaching search in earnest yet. Really, a lot of teams have not begun their coaching search in earnest yet. We're not hearing much in the way of, okay, well, who's interview with who? Like, the only thing we've concretely heard from any team really is that David Carl took himself out of the running for the Chicago job. That was clearly because Chicago had David Carl on the very top of their list. They went to him first, and then he said, nah, I'm good. Other than that, it's not like we're hearing Anaheim be linked to a ton of people. It's not like we're hearing Chicago being linked to a ton of people. I think maybe, and again, it's hard, and I'm not saying this in a critical way, but we maybe have to just take a step back and accept that, like, this isn't going to be a snap of the fingers thing. It's going to take some time, and that's not weird, that this is kind of normal.
For comparison's sake, John Tortorella was hired on June 17th, 2022. Now, that season was a little weird. It ended today, 4/29/2022. COVID
so it was
stuff
about a
probably
month, about a month and a half.
So it was about a month and a half after the season ended.
That will put us around late May, early June.
So it'll be around then that we'll probably get one. It seems like this could take a little while.
I'm just saying, like, it's not. I don't think it's a signal or a sign of incompetence on the part of the organization, and I don't think it's like, I don't think they're doing anything that's out of the norm by not rushing into the coaching search.
Well, also, like, given how important this draft is for the organization, it makes sense that that's what they're focused on.
Sure.
And it would, like, I feel like if all of us learned that, like, Danny and Jonesy all of a sudden just, like, stopped caring about the draft and weren't looking at players anymore and had kind of just only focused on the coach, and then we go into the draft and draft some dude that none of you guys like, people will be losing their minds. But, like, they're doing their job.
And in fairness, Danny is, and he's open about this, and this is something you hear from everyone around the league. It's not just something where you have the internal Flyers people, tooting their own horn. As far as GMs go, Danny Briere is a scouting GM. That he is a guy who watches a lot of prospects. He goes on a lot of scouting trips. That he ultimately Brent Flair runs the draft, but Briere is a guy who is a boots on the ground GM. He wants to be there, and he wants to see the prospects. He wants to be able to speak intelligently about them in the room when he makes the decision to go with a certain guy. So it makes sense that he wants to be an active participant at the under 18s, which is going on right now.
And it makes sense, like you said, they're in Texas at the U18s. We heard the report that when the, I guess, final chapter of the Fedotov, Kola saga, Tortorella thing all went down, they were on a scouting trip, and Danny was like, yeah, fine, whatever, have Kolosov, leave me alone. Like, it seems like that was kind of the case there. So yeah, it tracks that this is he is a proactive scouting style GM.
Now, I'm not saying that part of this is not that they are just waiting on talking. I'm sure that is part of it. It would shock me. Let me put it this way. Setting aside all the rumors and all the assumptions and the speculation, it would shock me if they do not have Rick Tocchet, like, on their short list. I don't know if he is the only guy, but it would shock me if he's not a guy who's, like, in their top 3 or 4. That would blow me away.
Rick.
I was going to say, this
baby,
is their
just
short
think about
list.
how much you loved your time in Pittsburgh, bud. Think about how much you liked it there.
This is their short list, Charlie.
It's just one name.
It's just one name. It's Rick Tocchet.
That's what you think?
Like, that's...
Go home,
Rick. And then in very small letter font is Bradshaw.
No, I do think maybe a small part of this is we're hearing, like, this might be a little bit, and again, that tracks, but I bet you Boston or the Rangers or whoever named Mike Sullivan the coach before we are like, oh yeah, we have a coach. I bet you that happens. Yeah. And that makes sense. Mike Sullivan is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, very much in demand if it's like a free agent. You don't let him leave the room.
Right.
Like, yeah, but I have an interview in New York. No, you don't. Sign this. Here's your Duncan. You're officially a Bruin. You know, like that's how that would go if I was trying to hire the guy.
Well, they're just going to have Charlie McAvoy, his actual son-in-law, put on the full court press.
Ben Affleck and Marky Wahlberg are in the room.
Ben Affleck could probably
say hello to your mother for me.
Yeah.
But truly, that is one of those, like, wait, really? And then it's like, yeah, really. Charlie McAvoy is married to Mike Sullivan's daughter.
The hockey world is the
so
size of
stupid.
this room.
It really
is really, when we talk about like the Flyers connections and everything, and it does annoy the hell out of me and all of us fans, honestly. There's only like 6 degrees of separation between us and like when we're talking, the biggest candidate, David Carl. It's like, yeah, his older brother played here. Like, you know, we have some connection to this. Yeah, there's always
every guy.
There's always a connection to someone. They like, yeah, Rick Tocchet, like he played here, but he's coached like 5 other places. Anyway, it's not going to shock me when it takes a little bit longer, but I do wonder if there is this, well, we ain't getting Sullivan. Very much doubt we're going to be able to convince David Carl that this is the spot for him. Let's say in the next couple of weeks, we find out Rick Tocchet comes to some sort of agreement with Vancouver because they want to have that conversation still. Mm-hmm. They're not exercising his option, but he's under contract till the 30th, and they want to see if they can work something out with him there. There's a report that they've already made him an offer that would make him like their highest paid coach of all time.
I mean, that's clearly that's clearly a self-interested leak on Vancouver's part to report publicly, we've backed up the Brinks truck for this guy so that if he says no, they don't get called cheap.
Yes. Yeah. No, and we've seen them do things like that in the past. Like, you know, their GM comes out and basically says, oh no, there's a big problem between Miller and Pettersson and probably going to have to move one or both of them. It's like, well, 2 weeks later, we had to move one. And who knows if the other one's still going to be around? Like, we've seen them do that in the past, but I do wonder if like these things happen. The Flyers are like, yeah, Bradshaw, you're the coach. Congratulations. They always have him in their back pocket.
And I would not be shocked if that is part of their thinking. The one thing about Tocchet now, which I don't know if this was publicized a lot in the Philly area, but it certainly was publicized a lot yesterday out of market. One thing you have to remember about Tocchet, number one, Tocchet talks to a lot of people, as I've said. He's a very gregarious, loquacious guy in terms of like, I want to talk to people. I just like to go.
Ivy League over here.
Okay.
Ivy League over here with his vocab.
Okay. He was the assistant coach in Pittsburgh for quite a while.
Yeah.
Go back.
It raises my eyebrows when the day that Mike Sullivan gets let go, Josh Yeo, the main athletic beat writer, who I'm going to guess he probably talks to Tocchet, releases an article that's like Rick Tocchet, top of the list of possible options for Pittsburgh to replace Mike Sullivan.
Love that for them.
Like that
great choice.
That I take notice of that because I'm like, suddenly, and then Kevin Kurz writes an article, The Athletic, saying like, Flyers might have competition for Rick Tocchet. That tells me that suddenly it's not a foregone conclusion anymore if Tocchet leaves Vancouver, that he's just taken a one-way trip to Philadelphia. Suddenly, there's 2 possible destinations for him that he has long-standing connections with.
And, like, yes, the long-standing connections. And it would be ridiculous of Rick Tocchet. Like, okay, I'm going to leave Vancouver where they just made me a lucrative offer. Yeah, I'm going to talk to Philly and no one else. Like, that's stupid. That's a dumb way to negotiate. Like, you know, yeah, man, Pittsburgh, where I was on the bench for a cup, you know, like
They got all those bridges.
They do have, you really, really just don't want Tocchet.
That is correct.
It's really, I appreciate it, quite honestly.
I am firm in my beliefs.
But I do wonder if this is like Bradshaw is staying, and if our A and B options don't pan out, guess what? You're the coach. And I do think that makes sense because, like I said yesterday, find out about Brad. Like, maybe he is just the Stevens that gets you this beginning part of it, and then when it's time to go win, we go hire a winner. Or maybe he's just here for 10 years because he's that good of a coach. Chances are really slim because there's like one of those guys in the whole league. But maybe you strike gold with Bradshaw after his long career as an assistant, being a teacher, and now stepping into this role finally. Like, I think it makes a ton of sense. I don't think he's their A option, but I do think he is an option, especially considering all the other things that might go down. Like, there's only so many guys that I think we have the inside track on.
Yeah.
Tocchet being one,
Obviously.
Ferschweiler. After that, it's not like this is the most appealing job, you know?
I'm just going to be fascinated with, like, if Tocchet's the hire, it's going to be very funny to see the split of the fan base, because there are going to be sections of the fan base that are going to be jumping for joy. And then there are going to be sections of the fan base that are like ready to give up on the Flyers entirely.
Yeah, everyone who loved the Tortorella hire is going to love the Tocchet hire. It's the same dude.
He's not the same dude.
Ish.
I mean, I think that is.
They live in the same county.
Live in the same
As
county,
much
perhaps
as-
the same state.
Maybe. I will
Same
say,
county.
like, as much as I just said, like, you know, Vancouver has kind of laid the path in the past for, like, oh, yeah, maybe part of Danny's thing of, you know, there's no one. Tortorella is one of one. There is no one that we're going to find that is comparable to Tortorella because he's such a unique or complicated man, depending on what adjective you want to use.
Sure.
Like, that could be, oh, you might think Tocchet's the same, but no one is the same. So there's no, do not make that comparison. Like, maybe there's a little bit of that.
Complicated John Tortorella.
Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of that in
It's
Danny's.
a simpler man.
I just look at the players who go to bat for him and talk about him that, like, almost as if he's a player's coach. Guys like Phil Kessel, guys like Sidney Crosby, guys like Quinn Hughes. The players that he doesn't like are the ones that, like, honestly, I'll say right now, like, players who he thinks are whips. And he clearly thinks that Elias Pettersson is a whip. Like, that's what it boils down to. And if you have that, like, you know, not even that old school toughness, but you just have that drive, I think he's fine with you. But if he pegs you as someone who lacks mental fortitude and internal fortitude, those are the only guys that I think he's going to clash with.
There are a lot of players on the Flyers that I feel like would fit that. Like, Rick Tocchet's not going to like you because you are small and do not.
There's one, and I agree.
Well,
And he's not small.
but Quinn
he's
Hughes,
pretty big
Quinn
and
Hughes
fast and has a lot of skills.
That's the thing. Quinn Hughes is small
I
and,
don't know if he
and
would've
does
liked
not
that exit
hit.
interview.
And Quinn Hughes, in all honesty, from everything I've read, Quinn Hughes is the biggest reason why they are trying so hard to keep Rick Tocchet, because they're terrified that if Tocchet leaves, then Quinn Hughes is going to leave in 2 years when he's a free agent. And Quinn Hughes is not big man smash. He's the opposite of that.
But he's Quinn Hughes. Like, we don't have any, like, Emile Andre.
He is a top
not
2
Quinn
defenseman
Hughes.
in the
Yeah,
NHL.
I'm just saying.
If it was
Yeah.
purely stylistic, he is not what you would think as the stylistic fit for, like, what the
Like,
the version of Tocchet that you are creating in your head. That guy would hate Quinn Hughes regardless of how good he is. He would be someone he tolerates because he's really good.
Like, is he going to hate Cam York? Is he going to
Maybe.
hate Owen Tippett? Is
Maybe.
he going to hate Jamie Drysdale? Is he going to hate Emile Andre? Like, we got a lot of dudes coming up that aren't as good as Quinn Hughes, but they are built a lot like Quinn Hughes. And it's
think,
like, are we just
like-
going to, like, all these dudes are done because Rick Tocchet doesn't like them? Like, I don't know.
I don't think the next coach is going to have, maybe with Tocchet because of his ties, but
Not going to have the, I don't like this guy, get him off my team.
I don't
veto.
see Danny Briere ceding that sort of power.
I hope not.
Now
fair
that
point.
he is, like, maybe because it's his hire, he's going to be a little more, but it sounds kind of like we're done with that subtraction part. Now, not to say that there can't be hockey trades, not to say that you can't turn Cam York and Owen Tippett into a guy that fills a need, but I don't think it's going to be the same sort of, I can't work with this guy, give me someone else situation that we had with Tortorella.
I think Torts is very unique in that sense,
Yes.
to be sure.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some of the other candidates. I just want to talk Mike Sullivan for a second. Do you think there's any chance we have Mike Sullivan, Kelly? I just don't see this as a fit now.
I think the Boston connection is too strong. And also, like, I mean, even though I don't think the Flyers did anything to John Tortorella, like, they treated him very well, it does seem like it was a pretty contentious ending to the relationship. And I would have to suspect that someone who's very close to John Tortorella might not love that about the organization. But
someone who knows John is like, yeah, that's right.
Well, that's right.
it.
It's less that, and I just think that Boston and New York would be more attractive.
Yeah, that is fair. But Bill, you're right. I absolutely have friends who like I'll ride or die, take a bullet for.
They're my a-hole.
But if somebody tells me, yeah, I can't stand that guy, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
happy next time, Charles.
No, me neither. I can't either. It's just like it's been around for 30 years. Am I going to get rid of him now?
Exactly.
Like, maybe it's that, but no, I do. Like Kelly said, David Pastrnak just had 43 goals and 100 points. I'd rather go there. Like we laid out the Rangers yesterday. They still have a bunch of good players. It's just like they hate the GM.
That's the thing. They just re-signed him. Like,
yeah, that's insane.
I don't know how you look at New York and think it's an attractive option, but I think that like the Rangers and New York City as in general like have such cachet that it's always going to be an attractive market for any coach or star player or whatever.
See, I said yesterday, I actually disagree with that. I think that we're letting the chaos of this past season blind us from the fact that New York they still have a lot of talent. Yeah, now maybe Drury just makes that situation toxic and makes it impossible to succeed. That's possible, and that's a legitimate concern. That said, I would think that a good coach, and I think Sullivan definitely is a good coach, could perhaps galvanize his team against the general manager.
Okay.
That's what honestly.
Like, let's be great to stick it to this dude.
Yeah, major league stuff right there.
Exactly.
No, honestly, that's what I thought Laviolette was doing. And maybe it was more to serve his own end. Like, there was a practice clip where it was like to end practice, he went in on a breakaway against Shesterkin, and he scored. And the whole team goes nuts. And I really, like, they filmed this, and it's on social. I was like, this plays to me like a... they love me still. It ain't me. It's that other guy. Like, that's kind of what I thought he was trying to do, but the thing went so far off the rails there. Like, we kept saying all winter, like, eventually New York's going to get it together enough to get one of these wild card spots. Like, there's no way they're this bad. And when he was unable to bring it together, it's like, yeah, this is probably Drury's fault, but we got to fire you too, man. Like, you didn't even make the playoffs. You won the President's Trophy last year. You're the fourth dude ever to fall into this.
So can we real quick, because I've been seeing this a lot and I don't understand where it's coming from. Where is this Dale Hunter nonsense coming from? Is it just that
has his name been brought up?
I've been seeing it more recently.
Social media, but not from anyone legitimate. It's just like there seems to be like a subsect of fans who have just decided that Dale Hunter is in the running.
Really?
And there's like literally no reason to think that he would ever leave London.
Well, he's
got like the David Carl situation in London. Like, I don't think he would leave.
It's him and his brother running the franchise.
If you're just going to run down the list of dudes that Keith Jones knows, like it's going to be, it's everybody. So like we don't just have to say like, because the Flyers go to London a lot because two of their top prospects play there, that means that Dale Hunter is in the running to be a head coach. I just simply don't think that's a thing at all.
And there's also the fact that, to be clear, I haven't heard Dale Hunter's name mentioned once.
That's what I mean. Not by anyone.
Not by anyone
legitimate.
Like,
it's just fans that are like, hey, how about Dale Hunter?
None of the insiders and none of the people I talked to have brought up his name. The main reason why I can't imagine he would do it is because he's so tied to London.
Right.
Like, if you remember, he was an NHL head coach briefly. He went and coached Washington that 1 year. And what did he do after that? He ran back to London because that's where he actually wanted to be.
His brother owns the team? Is that what
Well,
it
it's
is?
him and
Somebody
Mark.
owns the team?
Dale and Mark Hunter
They
run the team.
Right,
It's
like
their team.
They're not. Yeah. He's not leaving there.
I think the Flyers really...
Also, why would you want him?
I think the Flyers really love the way that organization is run.
Sure.
It's
they definitely do.
It's a top NCHL.
Clearly.
It's basically a pro organization.
It's like the Hershey Bears.
Yes, exactly. Very much. I was going to make that comparison. It's like the Bears. Exactly. Yeah. Like, this is a high-end organization. Yeah. Why would I leave? Like, you want to bring Mark too to be the GM? Yeah, we'll run a team together. Beyond like that situation unfolding for them, like, I just don't see why they would do it. And we've heard time and time again, like, he's not interested because this is a great gig for him.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's near home. You don't like the travel isn't insane. Like, you're basically in one province. Like, it's not. Right. This isn't. And you have the backing of a high-end organization that's really never going anywhere.
It would surprise me if at age 64,
that's the other
Dale
Hunter has a revelation that I want to be an NHL head coach. It would surprise me.
This is like Congress at this point. Why can we not have a head coach that's under the age of 65?
Someone who knows
And the gerontocracy.
Like, yes, and the NHL gerontocracy. All of these guys got to go.
What
I want
is
a
the difference?
35-year-old head coach.
What is the difference between email and a beeper, Kelly? That's really the question.
No one can explain it to me accurately.
All right. Before we go any further, I got to tell you about a couple more of our sponsors. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Whether you're talking about the huge customer base of 90 million worldwide users, the almost 800,000 events live streamed each year, and the early payouts across the NBA and NHL, you got to make Bet365 your sports book of choice, because today Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 different sports. 78! I can't write down 78 different sports, but you can bet on them at Bet365. And you know I love the early payouts with the Bet365 early payout offer. You're a winner if your team gains a 3-goal lead with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. And then, hey, maybe you took the Kings on the money line. Well, then you can turn right around and bet the Oilers and win twice on the same game. You can do that at Bet365. And we have breaking news from our friends at Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5, win or lose. All you got to do is sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets, whether your initial bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Well, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in PA. If you or someone who has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And while we're here, we got to talk about Rothman Orthopedics, because we got to talk about getting you back to what you love. Whether you're a weekend warrior or just trying to keep up with the kids, you know how tough it is when your body doesn't cooperate, and that's where Rothman Orthopedics comes in. Whether it's pain from playing your favorite sport, an old injury, or just age catching up to you, Rothman's team of experts is here to help. They're here to help with evidence-based care and a mission to restore your mobility. They'll get you back on your feet and back to doing what you love. So don't let pain hold you back. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to schedule your appointment and get back to being your best self. Rothman Orthopedics, we're getting you back to your game is their mission. All right. Charlie, who is the candidate that you have been wanting to talk about? Who is the guy that you think we haven't spent enough time discussing in this? Because I have a few people written down here, and I just want to know, with 13 minutes left, who is the dude that we should lead this off with, because he perks your interest.
I am intrigued by Mitch Love.
Okay.
Mitch Love is
Great name.
Assistant coach right now for the Washington Capitals, so he is currently on the bench for a team that likely is going to at least make it past the first round. He's 40 years old. He got his coaching start, and this is where I initially, it's not like I thought of him in the moment, but I remember watching these teams. Carter Hart played for the Everett Silvertips, okay?
Yeah.
Mitch Love was the assistant coach in charge of the defense for those Everett Silvertips teams, and he turned that team into one of the stingiest, tightest defensive teams in the league in terms of not just not allowing shots, but boosting the goaltending results. What was the big concern?
That could help.
What was the big concern you heard about Carter Hart when they took him in the second round? It was, well, he's not that big, but also every goalie does great in Everett because they're so good defensively. That's intriguing to me. Dustin Wolf, another Everett Silvertips graduate. The Flyers could certainly use a system that helps their goaltenders stop more pucks. So that's number one. Number two, he then gets hired to coach Saskatoon in the WHL, does a great job there. Then he gets hired to coach the Calgary affiliates in the AHL, wins AHL head coach of the year 2 straight years. Then he goes to be the assistant coach for Washington. Washington sneaks into the playoffs last year in his first year as assistant. This year, they're one of the surprise teams, and he's getting to learn under Spencer Carberry, who is looking like might be one of the best up-and-coming coaches in the league. Yeah. He's young, okay? He has the same background as kind of like a defenseman whisperer that Brad Shaw has, and he's with a team in the NHL that is dramatically exceeding all expectations. to me, Mitch Love has the kind of resume where I wonder, is he Brad Shaw but 20 years younger? And if he is, I want to at least get him in the building to pick his brain and see if he might be a good fit to be the young coach who grows with a young team that is developing. He's intriguing to me.
I don't like all that defense you just
Yeah, you want 7-5 wins.
Yeah.
Look, the Flyers
Like 7-3.
Flyers for the last 2 years have had the worst goaltending in hockey.
I know.
I'm intrigued by getting a
fix
coach who basically just by his very presence, because he coaches the defense in Washington too, their goaltending's been pretty good the last couple years. And maybe they could benefit from a coach who helps the goaltenders play better.
Like they rode Charlie Lindgren to the playoffs last year.
Fair enough.
Is Logan Thompson a nominee for Vezina? Did he make one of the final three?
He did not.
Okay.
It was Kemper got the third.
That was it. Yeah.
But he was in there. He was in the mix.
Yes. This is what intrigues me about Mitch Love. Back-to-back Coach of the Year awards in the AHL. And again, like Dustin Wolf, he was there.
Right.
And never made it to the NHL in his career. Had a big penalty minute, mostly AHL career. But it did at one point take him to play 4 games for the Johnstown Chiefs of the ECHL in 07-08. So I find that intriguing. 16 penalty minutes in 4 games for him there. I do think he definitely, the ties to, like Charlie said, several different organizations where they exceeded expectations or players were perceived maybe better than they were, or he was able to boost their results a little bit more than one would expect. All of that comes back to me, well, like, yeah, that's coaching. When a team is better than you think they're going to be, like the Washington Capitals, like, listen, they made some good additions this offseason. We thought it was fake last year, and we saw them get into the playoffs, and it was. And then this year, they're in the President's Trophy mix up until the end of the season, and they're about to get into the second round of the playoffs. It doesn't appear like it's fake. Now, yeah, Jacob Trickern, nice player. Logan Thompson, nice player. I wouldn't say these are franchise-altering players that get you the #1 seed, and yet here we are. And when I see maybe what we got out of Jacob Trickern this past season and think, wow, he's the defense coach. That does seem a lot like a Brad Shaw-esque job right there. Now, yeah, like his shooting percentage is like 90. Maybe that's just luck.
That's probably part of it.
Yeah, like he has like 18 goals or something. But still, I am interested in the progress that team seems to have made in a short period of time. And while Spencer Carberry is going to get most of the recognition for that, his staff, as we saw with John Tortorella, a huge part of that. Like Brad Shaw propped up Tortorella. Rocky Thompson in his power play may have held Tortorella back a little.
Probably
like these things like go hand in hand. So I'm going to give his staff some of the love too. And why not, Mitch Love?
I don't hate the idea of it. Everything you're saying sounds good to me.
He intrigues me. And again, like I wouldn't have him #1 on my list, but I would certainly bring him in for an interview and see if
he can sway me.
See if his mentality fits with what I want out of a coach. If he's impressive, in terms of intelligence, in terms of the way he thinks the game, in terms of the way he wants to teach the game. To me, it's very intriguing to go for a guy who, and again, I don't think the Flyers would do this because they love to get the big flashy name. But it's very intriguing for me to go for a guy who is young and has succeeded everywhere he's been.
Also, like, I know we keep saying this, I keep saying it, that the Flyers thing to do is to do X. But, like, Danny Briere has never done this before.
Yeah.
So maybe Danny Briere's thing isn't to do X.
I think we've been connecting dots because we've heard so much about restoring the Flyers way, and some of that really scares us because for the last 50 years, the Flyers way hasn't really paid off all that well. But there are things we love. Like, yeah, man, I want to be in on all the big names. I want this to be a premier organization. I want it to be, we're the original 7th organization again. Like, I want all that. I just don't know if it's, this coach won somewhere else. Bring him in. Like, I don't know if that's, but we don't know how Danny Briere is going to proceed here. We're just kind of connecting dots. And I think we've talked a lot more about Jonesy's connections than Briere's.
Sure.
You know, because that's, I mean, he's the connections guy.
Right.
That's kind of what his job is.
Yeah.
Right.
Connections to the media and connections around the freaking league. We don't really know like what Danny is going to be looking to do. And while
you're absolutely right.
While the president outranks the GM, this is typically a GM thing, right?
Yeah.
Like hiring the head coach is a GM thing.
I can't imagine that Keith Jones is going to, in some way, like usurp this choice from Danny Briere.
I could see Keith Jones heavily
I'm sure he has
influencing
an
it
opinion,
in
yeah.
that, you know, he might have his guy and he might try to push Danny in his preferred direction because they are very close. They, you know, you see them up in the box every single game. They're chatting away. They have a very good relationship, but in the end, I do believe it will be Danny's call.
All right. Does anyone else here? Let me just ask you: does Don Granato interest you at all?
No.
He led Buffalo to a 91-point season, which seems almost impossible at this point.
Yeah, I don't care.
That was only a couple of years ago.
What's he doing now?
You know, being Don Granato.
Don
Keep doing that, bud.
Granato.
Sounds great for you.
I just like I'm interested.
He's
in
probably
these,
got a consulting gig with some
Probably.
team because none of the 300 hockey men, you know.
I'm
Either that,
interested
it's
in
either
these.
that or you like sell windows or something. It's one of those two things. when
I'm
your
interested in
NHL
these
career
guys
is
who
over.
maybe like they're retreads, but they're not on like their fourth or fifth job.
Okay.
They've been one place, maybe didn't get the fairest shake because the team was whatever, and then you know like Jay Woodcroft. Like I'm interested in Jay Woodcroft at least as a potential candidate.
Yeah.
Like I think it's unfair to be like, well, it didn't work here. We're like, that's just coaching. You know, like Jay Woodcroft got fired because Connor McDavid didn't start the season healthy and they couldn't buy a save for a month. And then suddenly, you know, someone else takes over and they're in the cup final. Like, yes, there is like, you know, the boost you get when a coach gets fired. Maybe he wasn't doing the best job, but I don't know. That team is built around McDavid, and if he isn't scoring and the goalie can't get a save, I don't know how you're supposed to win a game.
I really like the idea that he's been traveling around the league trying to learn how to be a better coach.
Talking about Woodcroft?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal.
So here's my issue. Not even my issue. It's my concern with Granato as to why I worry that he's not the right fit for the Flyers, particularly right now. And Kelly might have some issues with this one.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to read a quote from Alex Tuch after Granato was fired in Buffalo. And the question was, there's actually another really good quote from, you know what? I'll just stick with this one. Okay. This was after Granato was fired, and the ice and exit interviews, they asked Alex Tuch what he wanted out of their next coach. Someone that is going to hold us accountable, someone with experience, good hockey mind, smart, and I think somebody who brings energy into this locker room. I think at times we weren't able to maintain energy, and at times we weren't able to gather, I guess, and create energy and momentum ourselves. Someone that's able to do that and able to help us reach our full potential. I think Donnie did a really good job developing guys in this room, myself included, and helping our games, but our next coach will be one that holds us accountable and one that makes sure we're performing to the best, or you're not going to perform at all. Granato seems like, based on this, he is a extreme players coach. He's the exact coach I worry that players will walk all over after Tortorella.
I still,
Kelly's interested now.
listen, no, just because I don't want to do this again. I just feel like there has to be a medium somewhere, like where a coach is liked by the players and respected by the players. I feel like there has to be a situation in which that can exist.
It kind of sounds like that might be Rick Tocchet, though.
Oh, gross.
I'm just saying.
It also sounds
I'm
like it
just
might
saying.
be Bradshaw. We have no reason to believe the players don't respect Bradshaw.
Right now,
Yeah, they absolutely 100% respect him now.
Yeah.
right now, as much as I might want someone else like Firschweiler or
shiny toy,
Carl
yeah,
or
yeah.
something, I think Bradshaw might make the most sense. I
think he
really
does,
do.
too.
All
He's my
right.
preferred candidate at this point.
All right.
It just seemed like, based on the comments after Granato was let go, it seemed like the players, even more than anything, were saying, we want someone who holds us more
They were
accountable
hungry
than
for
Donnie did.
discipline.
Yeah, which is wild, which implies that, like, man, this guy must just let them do whatever the heck they wanted.
This was the country club that we have heard about.
Yeah,
like this
right.
was straight up, and we know Buffalo is that place where it's like they tried to make everyone comfortable. They gave them long-term contracts.
Right.
They're like, okay, it's you, go, and like we see where that's let them. All right, head to allphly.com now because we're going to overtime.
Yes.
Before we get
I love that, Kelly.
before we get to super chats, is there anyone else here who interests you? Like, who do you actually think is a candidate? Because to me, it's Tocchet, Shaw, and Ferschweiler. I kind of think Sullivan is out.
I think they'll interview Woodcroft.
Maybe Woodcroft gets an interview. Kevin Kerr said Quenneville hasn't been ruled out yet.
It feels like a hot take. I'm going to be honest with you.
Maybe it's just like it hasn't come up.
I just don't think it makes sense.
We haven't ruled him out because it hasn't come up.
Right, yeah, not ruled out in that no one has come out and said we're not hiring Joel Quenneville. Okay, thank you for your reporting. Like, I really don't think that I feel like that's something that you put into an article because you want people to talk about your article.
I don't know.
I cannot imagine that Kevin made that up.
No. He's available, so I think you have to talk about it.
He hasn't been ruled out. Right. No one has come out and said I'm not saying it's a lie.
Yeah.
It's accurate.
You just think that it's a little bit of an overstatement of how much of a candidate he is.
Right. Like, I don't think that anyone in the Flyers organization is kicking around the idea of hiring Joel Quenneville. Like, maybe if there were no other candidates available and he was the only former head coach that was available to be hired, maybe they would talk to him. Maybe, but even then, I'm not sure. Like, the potato is too hot.
What I'll say is that, and this is coming from the stance of someone who does not want them to go after Quenneville. However, I think they would be doing a disservice to the coaching process if they didn't at least have a conversation about it, because he is a very good coach and he does check a lot of boxes aside from like the morality box.
I mean,
so I think you have to at least talk about it.
In a vacuum, he's like my dream coach.
Right.
Like, I want that.
We
Florida
badly
team.
wanted Quenneville,
right?
When prior to him getting the Florida job and then the Florida job going away for him, we all wanted Q.
Yeah. Yes.
I think you have to talk about it, but I think then the answer has to be, we can't go down that road.
But if you look at a short list, it says Tocchet, Shaw, Ferschweiler. Do you think anyone else is even on it?
I feel like that's the top. That's got to be the top three, right?
They probably have some other people who we're not even talking about.
That's true.
Do you think Todd Nelson is on it?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, Hershey Bears, he's succeeded in the AHL. Yeah. I'm sure he's someone who's on the dry erase board, who they're bouncing around when they get back to Voorhees. They're probably doing it over at the facilities there. Will they at the very least gauge Mike Sullivan's interest? Probably.
Maybe they're doing it at the Borgata. Maybe they're at Ocean. Anyway, let's hit those super chats. All right, we have a few here today. Lead it off with our old pal JH. I don't even know what that says.
It's a quick question for me. Pregunta para Charles. Yes. Okay. Question for me.
So if the Flyers win the lottery, yeah. I mean, if they win, we've said we think it's going to be Schaefer.
Yeah, I do. If they finish second, I think it's going to be Misa.
I do wonder if there is at least a little bit of, like last year with Bouillon, hey, we'll take him. But if you're willing to offer us something, we're fine picking two. You kind of hold that a little bit hostage. Don't trade down too far and kill your options, especially if this is a, 1-2 our top, and then we have a 4 through 8 or whatever, kind of the same. Okay, you don't want to fall below 2, but I do wonder if they're willing to. We like Schaefer a lot, but if there's a second round pick involved, or another first, something like that, first down the line, we're totally fine taking Michael Misa at 2.
I just think the 1C is more important to this team than the defense. I feel like you can make a winning hockey team playing defense by committee with good defensemen. Don't get me wrong, you can't have a garbage defense and make this work. But I think you can have good defensemen and make a defense work without having Chris Pronger. Not every team has that kind of dominant overall number one defenseman, and a lot of them win a lot of games. I just feel like without the 1C, you're not going anywhere.
See, I guess number one, I disagree with that because I think that given the way that hockey is trending with it being more positionless, I don't think that it's well, if you don't have the 1C, don't even bother. I don't think that's true. I think you can theoretically win. I don't think the fact that it hasn't happened means that it can't happen. But the bigger thing in my mind is I don't think the Flyers can afford to not go and take the best player that they evaluate to be the best player just because of position. And I'll give you one real good reason why. Nolan Patrick. because that's why they took Nolan Patrick. It was, well, our scouts like Miro Heiskanen more, but we need the center. We have more of a need for center. And what happened?
But he was also the a consensus. Like every draft ranking had Hischier, Patrick.
And every draft ranking was wrong.
Exactly. But that's what I mean. So like, what if they're wrong about Schaefer too?
Well, I'm not talking about draft rankings, though. I'm talking about your internal evaluation.
Okay.
I don't think the Flyers would be taking Matthew Schaefer #1 because they're getting bullied into it by public rankings. They'd be taking Matthew Schaefer #1 because they think Matthew Schaefer is the best player in this draft class. And if the scouts and the organization evaluates that he is, they owe it to themselves to take the best player in the draft class, regardless of position. And I'd be saying this even if it was a winger, because you know what? They can't afford, like, yes, they need a center. I agree with that. But once you go down the road of drafting in the top 5 for need rather than talent, that's how you pass up on Heiskanen over Patrick.
Luckily,
that's how you do it.
Luckily, none of these guys went to Western Michigan or played for Drummondville. So it's not going to be the problem that Nolan Patrick was for the Scouts v. GM. All right, the next one we have here, average Warzone guy. Says, birds at the White House and now draft lottery date for next week. It's a good week. Let's move up to 2 and break our second overall curse with Misa. It would be fun to get the second pick and it not suck.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That would be really fun for, I think, everybody.
No history.
But really, like, even in the top 5, you know, like Joni Pikkanen was a nice player. I don't know if he was the 4th overall selection. He was nice. He racked up a bunch of assists a few years. Hell of a playoff run with the Phantoms in the
as
lockout.
excited as we are for this pick, it is true that other high picks have underwhelmed based on expectations. Hopefully this is what breaks that. Hopefully.
Just as an FYI, because people in the chat were asking earlier when we were talking about it. Last year's draft started at 6:30. I don't think they started flipping the cards until closer to 7. I'm assuming our party will start at 6. People were asking when will the party start.
Sense.
I'm guessing 6 o'clock.
Just show up. I'm going to be here.
Get here when you get here.
Yeah, we're going to be here. Just come. We're going to be hanging out.
6 p.m. probably.
Plenty of Pabst Light. Yeah, 6. Let's say 6. Let's all meet here at 6 o'clock. All right. From Flyers Chirp. On the draft, my ideal draft guy, win the lottery, draft Schaefer, get a top 6 pick, using late draft capital to get Frondell. See you May 5th.
Flyers Chirp, that would be the dream.
That would be cool.
But I will go back to what I say. Those
Never
high
happens.
picks rarely get traded.
It doesn't happen. I think there are some possibilities to pick off a team, but like it made a ton of sense last year for the Devils. And what happened? They just made the selection because that's what you do.
Yep.
All right. From JH, Gritty told me it would be Hunter. That would be, listen, it would be kind of crazy. I just don't see it happen. Like, I don't see, it's like the David Carl thing. Why would I do that?
The one thing, and this is not saying that they're going to go after Dale Hunter specifically. It is fair to say, though, and Jonesy has noted this on a couple occasions, that the Flyers under this new regime have largely operated in the shadows and have done things that you didn't see coming.
That's fair.
And everyone seemingly thinks it's Tocchet. Maybe this is a big old smokescreen and they're going to go and hire a Mitch Love or someone like that who you're just like, wow, I barely even talked about that name. We've talked about like 30 coaches on the show in the last 2 weeks, and it's going to be someone we never even brought up. That's possible.
Cool.
Jonesy, Danny, bring me Sergei Fedorov. Come on. Sergei Fedorov or Alexei Zhamnov. Let's do it. Let's make the new Iron Curtain team. Let's do it. All right.
We're getting there.
From Marco 5-hole. So sad I can't do Monday night. Have done draft party and sweet takeover, but missed Montreal. If you can go, wanted to do Papa Shot versus Kelly. Go Phantoms. We are going to have some Phantoms content coming to you real soon. I believe I'm talking to Maddie today.
Yay.
Is that today or tomorrow? Today. I scheduled a thing with Maddie and a thing with Rachel, and I don't remember which day was which. But we have some Phantoms content coming to you maybe later today. If not tomorrow, we'll get a little bit of on tomorrow's show. So yeah, go Phantoms, man. They're in. We need some sort of playoff hockey in this at least organization. All right. Let's see, from the Flyers man, or is it DA? I don't remember.
DA Flyers man.
DA Flyers man.
Dun dun.
What's John Stevens? What's
that
John
sound,
Stevens?
that Law and Order sound.
What's John Stevens up to these days?
I don't know what John Stevens.
I feel like I looked this up recently and do not remember. Let's do it
because he wasn't old.
No.
So that's the thing. There's John Stevens down at this end, and then there's, I don't know, Mike Babcock down at this end.
Okay.
We don't have to go all the way down here. We can go like here.
He was at least an assistant on the Vegas staff when they won the cup.
Oh, look at that.
So maybe he's still there.
Is
I
he
honestly
no
don't
longer?
remember. That's the last thing it says on Wikipedia.
Well, let's take a look on the old elite prospects.
There you go.
Staff
Oh yeah,
list.
they have the staff pages.
They have the best
That's
one.
pretty up to date.
Let us see if he is still with Vegas.
Was that a real
And
thing?
he is. He is an assistant coach with the Vegas Golden Knights.
Is that
still.
a real thing that happened? He made a cake for the locker room, or is that just a story that people made up?
I
I
never
remember-
heard that.
never heard that
You've-
story.
You've
That he
repeated
baked
it
a
a bunch
cake.
of times.
And then I
For
believe
the
it.
boys.
Why would you make that up?
I don't remember where I heard it.
I believe it.
I have never heard that one, but maybe.
I spent
Hey,
a lot
man.
of time online.
John Stevens, captain of a Calder Cup champion, coach of a Calder Cup
Gave his
champion.
eye to the organization.
Gave his eye to the organization and has won like 3 cups as an assistant. It's not as if he's a bad coach. Maybe he's just not an NHL head coach, but he's good at something. He keeps being on winning teams. All right. Let's is this the last one here? Yeah, from JH. Kurt Russell did a great job on the 1980
That
US
made
team.
outside the box choice.
That would be awesome.
Kurt Russell's too old.
Kurt Russell's too
Yeah, he's
old.
74. Yeah.
Yeah. Is he really?
74.
Wow,
I mean, he's been
that's
around
wild.
for a long time.
You looked that up quick.
I sure did. Yeah, I saw that one coming. Check the Wikipedia. But yeah,
That's what's stopping it. Other than the age, it's like, yeah, why
Otherwise,
not?
I'd hire him for
Otherwise, brilliant idea.
I love it. All right, and that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. May I remind you to hit the like button. We're at 181. It's going to take me like 22 minutes to get home. They better be at 200 by the time I check when I get home.
go.
And buy your tickets to the draft lottery party. Go to allphly.com/events. There better not be more people at that Sixers party than there are at ours. I realize that is just 6 days away, but listen, it's the NHL. We didn't get confirmation of the date until today. We thought it was going to be on Monday, May 5th. It is. Cinco de Mayo, draft lottery party. Plenty of empanadas to go around.
I was going to say, none of those Sixers guys are bringing empanadas. I can promise you that.
we will see what happens there. Maybe I'll go to a restaurant and not ask.
I wonder if they have empanadas across the street.
I bet they do. They
probably
have
do.
delicious stuff over there. So
Yeah.
regardless,
Yeah,
let's
good
get some
place.
food. Let's get some food across the street for Cinco de Mayo for the draft lottery party. All right. And that's all the time we have. Make sure you're following us here on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that reminder bell. Remember, this is the time of the show for the summer, 12 noon. So hit that reminder bell so you never miss us when we go live. Follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky. Search PHLY Flyers. Same goes for the podcast, wherever you get those. I'm Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. That's Kelly Hinkle. Until next time, let's go Phantoms.
We all silly like the mayor.